multiple high frequency magnets, and it will align and malalign the hydrogen atoms of our body, and the imaging is done. The hydrogen atoms, basically the protons, are everywhere in our body, and every matter which is there, we can see is composed of protons. So aligning and malaligning is an important tool to getting the image. There are certain precautions which are necessary for the MRI patient. As in CT, it is again the cross-sectional study, but CT is very simplified. Like it is done in within CT brain is done in 30 seconds, but the MRI brain plane without contrast is done in 20 to 25 minutes, and the precautions which are necessary include no metallic object or thing should be with the patient, either the button or clip or any denture, any cardiac prosthesis, any metallic bone prosthesis, or ring, belt, wallet, glasses, etc. So, because as you all know, the magnet pulls the metallic things. We all have played the game. You pull the thing with the magnet in our childhood. So it is simply like that. Okay, if the metallic object will go in the MRI room, it will be pulled, and as there are so many strong magnets, there will be a big disaster, and the damage can be done to the patient and to the machine also. And another thing, you have seen the gantry of the CT yesterday. Look at this gantry, and this tunnel in which the patient will go is so small, and it is large also lengthwise. So the patient will sometime experience claustrophobia. What is claustrophobia? The heartbeat will alter. Patient feels that he or she is in the grave, and he might die. The breathing will be altered, and he or she shouts, please let me out of this machine. So the claustrophobia is very common in MRI patients during the procedure, but it is not usually seen in the CT scan. But MRI is far superior than the CT scan in many aspects, which we will discuss later. So this is the MRI machine. You can see now. You can see this thing. There are many magnets which are placed inside it. This is the couch, and there are different coils. What are the coils? Coils are used to percept the signals, and they are placed close to the body. Means if there are head coils, there are body coils, there are lumbar coils, limb coils. So if we want to do the lumbosacral spine or MRI brain, there are separate coils used, and the area imaged will give the signals which are perceived by these placed near to the body. Now this is the thing which might occur. MRI machine, and the patient it is like pencil. We tape some stuff it and sealing to help to pass the time. Means the patient says, okay, I will not stay in this machine for so long. So we must take care of these things because they are all humans. MRI is also very complicated regarding the reporting and regarding the sequences. CT scan, simple brain CT scan, and we report it according to the windows, like we use soft tissue window, brain window, and bone window, I have told you. But in the MRI, we have to compare different aspects like different sequences. Sequences means T1, T2, FLAIR. These are the minimum sequences required to acquire the brain MRI. There are so many other sequences which I don't want to make you confused by telling you at this early stage, but what are the sequences? Basically, they are obtained by aligning or malaligning the hydrogen atoms, because once the patient is in the MRI machine and the coil is placed near the head, around the head in fact, then the patient is only in the MRI room, and the technician will go out by closing the door and the machine, and he or she will operate the machine from the console outside portion which lies adjacent to the MRI room, and there are many computers and other things are available there. So he has a mic outside and he or she will tell you the instruction from outside. So after that he makes the machine on and apply different sequences, like he press the button and apply T1 sequence, then he will press the button and apply T2 sequence. These are already generated in the brain protocol, which is built by the radiologist and the machine vendors. For simplicity, we will only talk about T1, T2, STIR and FLAIR sequences. What is FLAIR regarding brain? FLAIR is fluid attenuated inversion recovery. I will tell you, don't worry, I will tell you and try to simplify these sequences as possible, as much as possible. So T1, why these T1 and T2 give different type of image? You just have to remember one or two things regarding T1, T2 and FLAIR, that T1 impulse is generated and T2 difference in the T1 and T2 are due to the relaxation patterns of the protons in different planes, because you know this is a 3D imaging. Yeah, the cross-sectional imaging is basically the 3D imaging. So if we want to have T1 weighted image, then the TR and TE will have different timings, which are usually short, and the image will show fat brighter relative to the water, and the water appears to be black. But in the T2 weighted image, the TR and TE both are prolonged, and the image will show water brighter than to the fat. So it's in the simplified term, in T1 weighted images, the water or CSF will come darker, blackish, and in the T2 image, the water or the any fluid will come brighter, means white. T1 black, T2 white. As simple as that. Now the confusion of a FLAIR will come. In FLAIR images, it is simplified way. In simplified way, it is the appearance of the brain is like T2 weighted image, but the fluid is suppressed, means brighter fluid is again black. Why we acquire this sequence? Because when we see the pathology in the T2 weighted image, it will appear bright, and if the CSF or the fluid is again bright, we cannot perceive the pathology correctly. So the T2 weighted image is bright, the CSF or the fluid is brighter, and the T1 weighted image, the fluid is darker or blackish. Contrast in the MRI image come from T1 and T2 weighted images and taken at the same time, but different process, I have told you, and they are complementary to each other. When we apply the radio frequency pulse, there is magnetization of the proton or hydrogen atoms done. Initially they are aligned into the 90 degrees, and then they acquired the transverse position or 180-degree alignment. Usually in the T1 weighted images they acquire 90 degree alignment, and in the T2 weighted images they acquire the 180-degree alignment, and vice versa. Now simply, so much physics you have bored, and now I want to show you the image. You can see this is the beautified brain. The beauty of the MRI is that it will sharply demarcate or delineate the smallest anatomy of the brain. Like, this is the outermost portion which is brighter. I have told you the fluid is black in T1 weighted image and bright in T2 weighted image. So first I will talk. This is the ventricle. It will contain CSF, which is fluid, and it is black, it is white. T1, T2. But the beauty of the MRI is that there are certain things which are bright, which it will demarcate everything. Like, it is the subcutaneous fat, then this is the outer portion of the bone which is calvarium, outer part of the calvarium. This is the, which is called outer table. This is the inner table. This is the, in between this there is a bone marrow. Then these are the cortical sulci and gyri. You can see the sulci and gyri pattern, and they will end like this. Then this is the brain parenchyma, deep brain parenchyma. These are the ventricle. This is the septum pellucidum, or falx cerebri, whatever you will say. So there are certain things which are usually on T1 weighted images. The fluid is black, and there are very few things which are brighter on T1 weighted images. So I just want to tell you at this stage, so it will be easier for you to pick the anatomy in this image. One is fat, which is brighter in T1 weighted image. There are so many things which are brighter on T2 weighted image. I don't want to discuss at this moment, but I just want to tell you the three things which are brighter in T1 weighted image. That are fat. This is the outer subcutaneous fat in the scalp skin. Another thing is the proteinaceous material, which is brighter in the T1 weighted images. And the third thing is the blood, which is brighter in the T1 weighted images. So this is the T2 weighted images. Again, you can see the fluid is bright. This is the in between the CSF, in the cortical sulci it is again brighter, and this is the proton weighted of FLAIR, equivalent to the FLAIR image. Now I want to tell you the T1 weighted images, T2 weighted images. I don't want to go into the detail, but you can see a small area, hyperdense area here in the left posterior occipital lobe, and this is the bleed, small bleed, which appears to be brighter on T1 or hyper intense. The terminology which we use in the MRI is intensity, because it is the magnetic wave. The terminology is applied is intensity. Iso intense like brain parenchyma, hyper intense brighter than brain parenchyma, and hypo intense blacker than brain parenchyma. So a bleed here, hyper intense on T1 and hyper intense on T2. Then the T1 weighted images. All the sequences are T1 weighted images. So different, like it is at the level of orbit, it is at the level of the lateral ventricle, and it is at the level of falx cerebri. So you can see the different thing, you can see the different patterns, you can see the beauty of the basal ganglia, you can see the caudate nucleus, the lentiform, the globus pallidus, and the thalami. These are the frontal horns of the lateral ventricles. These are the occipital horns of the lateral ventricle. In between is the third ventricle, and this is the fourth ventricle, and this is the brain stem, and these are the orbits. So the MR appearance commonly scanned tissues of the gray matter is usually gray on T1 weighted image, light gray on T2 weighted image, and the light gray on T2 FLAIR image. As I have already told you, FLAIR is like T2 weighted image, except the fluid is suppressed, means turned black. White matter is dark gray. White matter is white on T1 weighted image, dark gray on T2 weighted image, and dark gray or gray on FLAIR image. CSF for water, I have told you, black, white, and dark gray or blackish. Fat is white, white, white on all pulse sequences. Hair is black, black, black on all pulse sequences. Bone or calcification is again black, black, black on all pulse sequences. Edema is gray on T1, brighter on T2, and brighter on FLAIR image. Then demyelination or gliosis is again gray on T1, brighter or white on both T1, T2 and FLAIR images. Then the ferritin deposits usually seen in the basal ganglia are dark gray on T1, black on T2 and FLAIR images, and calcium is white on T1 and dark gray or dark gray on T2 and FLAIR images. Proteinaceous, I have told you, is whiter or brighter, hyperintense on T1 and usually hyperintense on T2 and FLAIR images. Then these are the three images from a volume. You can see this line, so we can change and alter this line according to the needs we have. It can go up to 2 millimeter or 1 millimeter thickness. So we can examine the brain in 2 millimeter or 3 millimeter or even sometimes less than 1 millimeter slices. So it is the axial image. I have told you the plane yesterday in the CT brain. This is the axial section, this is the coronal section, and as for side, as for sagittal, this is the sagittal section of the brain. T2 weighted images. This is the T1 and this is the T2. You can see, compare, and you can see the difference. Everything which is brighter here, darker here is brighter here. Then another sequence is T2 weighted star sequence. It is usually to visualize the small bleeds in the brain parenchyma. Now you can see black threads like things. These are the vessels. So any bleed can, or any neovascularity or extra vascularity can be picked by this. Sometimes it is required. T2 star weighted images. Then STIR sequence. STIR is basically the fat suppression sequence, and it is a short form of short time inversion recovery, and it is the fat signals are suppressed, as simple as that. Means if we think the patient had lipoma in the back of the neck and we image it and it appears to be brighter on all pulse sequences, but surgeon wants to ask you, are you sure it is lipoma, because I am going to operate it. So we apply just a sequence without having histopathology or any invasive procedure, and it all turned to be black. The whole bright thing goes black. It means it is suppressed. It was fat, so it was suppressed. If it will be fluid or something else or bleed, it will not suppress. You can understand what I am saying. It is the basically fat suppression sequence. Now I want to show you some real images, means tumor. You can see. Okay, I haven't told you one thing. We don't use contrast in the MRI usually until and unless there is some pathology which requires to be delineated finely. means we have to exactly localize and define what is the size and how much is the depth. So like in cases of tumor of the brain, every single neuron means a lot. So surgeon wants to have how much is the depth, how much is the anterior-posterior, transverse or craniocaudal dimensions of the tumor. So he or she will operate and the loss of the neurons will be minimal. So in this image we can pick the tumor. This is the tumor, we can easily pick, and this is the edema. But we want to make sure this is edema, not some pathology. Give some IV contrast to the patient, which is gadolinium, and you can see all the edema is suppressed, or edema is not enhancing, but the actual tumor is enhancing. So then we can measure this thing, and tell the neurosurgeon that the tumor is this much centimeter or this much of size. So he or she will not operate this portion of the brain because this is not the tumor, this is the brain edema, and he or she will operate this thing. The margin should be like this, just a few millimeters away from it, like this, but not this portion. Then MRI in the intracranial hemorrhage. In MRI of the bleed, hematoma of the brain, we usually classify it in different phases: acute, early subacute, middle subacute, late subacute and chronic, according to the appearance of T1 T2 weighted image of the hematoma. In the earlier image, in the first or second slide, I have shown you the bleed of the bleed in the occipital lobe. So if the bleed is acute in the first 6 to 24 hours, it appears to be gray or on T1 weighted image and light gray on T2 weighted image. In early subacute, it appears gray on T1 weighted and dark gray on T2 weighted. In the middle subacute, usually our patients came at this stage to the radiology department. It is white and it is dark gray, means hypointense. And late subacute goes from 3 to 30 days and it appears to be hyperintense on T1 and hyperintense on T2. And in the chronic, more than 14 days, sometimes it appears to be dark gray and black or hypointense on T2 weighted images. Another beautiful sequence is the DWI sequence. It will tell you whether the infarction, it is for the infarction, and it will tell you how old is the infarction, whether it is acute or chronic, and it will define the infarction very earlier, means 4 to 6 hours after the CVA. Patient had if a patient had MRI, then even the MRI will not pick the infarction completely, but the DWI sequence will pick it beautifully. Like in this case, you can see in the left periventricular location, this is hardly any difference between the both sides. Slight hyperintensity on this side, on this side, but you can see in the DWI sequence it is so beautifully picked and appear as hyperintense. It is basically the diffusion weighted images, and it will show the restriction because of the fluid and the edema. Stroke, you can see this thing. Hemorrhage, I have already told you. CT, hemorrhage. This is the MRI T1 weighted image, this is the MRI T2 weighted image, and according to the chart I have told you, we can categorize the stage of the bleed. Then MR is again very important in doing the MR angiography. So MR, without giving IV contrast, MR angiography is done. MRA it is called, and I am again telling you it is without IV contrast, and the aneurysm is picked. You can see the circle of Willis. This is the both anterior cerebral arteries, middle cerebral arteries, and this you can see the aneurysm of the PCOM. You can see a large aneurysm dilatation, and it is picked by MRI. Then the hemorrhage, you can see the acute CT, but MRI is defining it clearly and defining the stage of the hemorrhage. It is hyperacute, so we use it IB, ID, BD, BD, BB, and DD. So it is hyperacute is less than 12 hours, iso-intense and hyperintense. Then in acute 12 hour to 2 days, iso-intense and hypo-intense. Then early subacute up to 7 days, it is hyperintense and hypo-intense, and late subacute it is hyperintense on both sequences, and in chronic it is hypo-intense on both sequences. Subdural hematoma, I have shown you earlier in the CT scan. You can see the subdural hematoma with hyperintensity above and this hypointensity on the lower side, fluid level. So further clarification, then this is another case. It is the extraaxial lesion, which is meningioma. You can see broad-based extraaxial lesion. Then this is again the tumor, and it is after surgery. This was before surgery and this was after surgery. Only the CSF area or glios is left. This is the tumor cavity which is there with no residual tumor. This is the post-contrast images both. Then meningitis, you can see the enhancing meninges, enhancing nodular meninges everywhere. Then this thing, this is the METS. I have shown you yesterday also at gray white matter junction, multiple. Then this is the sigmoid sinus thrombosis, venous sinus thrombosis. This is the superior sagittal sinus. This is the sigmoid sinus. All is blocked by the thrombus. Then the multiple sclerosis, T2-weighted hyperintensities in the perpendicular pattern, in the periventricular location. You can see this one. Dawson finger appearance is called. This is the Dawson finger appearance. Multiple sclerosis, which is the it can be the autoimmune. You can see the sagittal image, Dawson finger appearance, multiple sclerosis. Then nasofrontal mucocele, you can see this thing. Then posterior fossa tumor, medulloblastoma. This was the CT, and this is the MR, sagittal view. Then craniopharyngioma, you can see the snowman sign, craniopharyngioma. Then it can be shown as a calcified thing, this thing. The other differential in this will come as pituitary macroadenoma, okay? The pituitary adenoma or craniopharyngioma, but on biopsy it came as craniopharyngioma, but in exam you will show both the differential, right, or say both the differentials, because in this patient the CT showed peripheral calcification and the biopsy showed craniopharyngioma, so we cannot say that this is pituitary macroadenoma, etc. Then tuberculomas, multiple microabscesses here and there, fungal meningitis or tuberculous meningitis is like that. So this is all. Thank you.
अभी तक